when we zoom out of your cell, we can look at the central dogma of biology, like what's happening inside of one of your normal healthy cells right now. And inside of one of your normal healthy cells, what we talked about previously is that we have the central dogma of biology happening. We've got very important DNA in your nucleus that has instructions for how to do stuff, so it's basically a book. And this book has genes in it, which would be equivalent to paragraphs on a page. So these genes are very important that need to code for something like insulin that you would need to moderate your blood sugar level. So this particular paragraph here would be telling your body how to make insulin. So this stuff's locked away inside your nucleus because it's super important that we preserve the actual blueprint to make whatever we're going to make. And so that blueprint is going to be inside of your nucleus transcribed into something called RNA, which would be something that's a lot less, valuable, which would be an RNA. And so this RNA is equivalent to just a piece of instructions you would hand to someone saying, here's how to do something. So in the case of if we wanted to make insulin, for instance, inside of one of our healthy liver cells, we would just basically look at this paragraph. We would write down this paragraph onto this piece of paper. This piece of paper would then leave our nucleus and then enter our cytosol, which is outside of the cell, or it's outside of the nucleus, but still inside of your cell. And so inside of your cytosol, that's where we've got things like ribosomes, whose job it is to basically take the instructions that they've been given in the form of this RNA and then make something like proteins. And so the actual thing that they would be doing is taking the instruction set, the RNA, and then making the actual proteins, or in this case, insulin. So this would be insulin. And so that's what's happening inside of one of your normal healthy cells. What the coronavirus does is it comes into your cells and it basically inserts its own note and makes up its own instruction set inside of that cytosol, and it's basically hijacking a lot of the ribosomes, and instead of making bananas or whatever other stuff that you need them to be making, it now starts making its own stuff that it wants, like more coronavirus progeny. And so what's going on here is that it's jumping into this process that you have going on inside of your healthy normal cells. And so the way that this all ties together is, what is the coronavirus made of? The coronavirus is made of the stuff that your cells are making themselves out of. And it's basically hijacking everything inside of your cells, and this is what makes it bad for you, because it is a parasitic relationship. You do not benefit from the coronavirus infecting you. The coronavirus benefits from infecting you. And in that regard, what the coronavirus is basically doing is it's jumping in, it is dumping a lot of instructions into your cells, telling them, hey, stop making whatever you were making before. I need you to start making a bunch of copies of myself. I want you to start making a bunch of copies of what I need. And so the coronavirus specifically has got a ton of proteins, specifically like these spike proteins. So if I had something to represent a spike around here, we can call this a spike protein. So instead of making the insulin that your cells need to survive, they're making spike proteins. Instead of making the RNA to code for more of your insulin that you would need to survive, it's now making a bunch of copies of the virus's bad genetic payload. And so the RNA that the coronavirus had came from yourself. It's literally it's using the same stuff it has to play with inside of all your cells. And so in that regard, it is natural in that it is using everything that's coming from your own cells. And then for me, the kicker is also, like, when these coronaviruses are leaving your cells have their own plasma membrane, they have their own skin. And basically when this coronavirus is leaving, it's budding off from your cells, and it's basically walking away with some of the skin from your cells too. So it's literally taking everything, it's making itself at home inside of your cells, which is a good and bad thing, because it's really bad, because basically it's you can't use the existing resources for your own cells anymore. It's all going to the coronavirus, which has no benefit to you. And so that is the huge issue here. And so the good news here is that we can figure out, well, what are the coronavirus's tricks? What kind of information does it have? This is the sequence of the coronavirus that the researchers in China were able to tell us. They were able to tell us, here's exactly what the coronavirus is putting into your cells. So now we have that piece of information. Now we can figure out, all right, how can we prepare ourselves to actually fight that stuff? And we know the sequence of the proteins now that the coronavirus is going to be making, like some spike protein or something like that. And so now we know exactly a lot of key features of this coronavirus, and this is very helpful for us in terms of developing a vaccine or a treatment or a screening kit for this coronavirus. And so at the end of the day, what is the coronavirus made of? It is made of the proteins and lipids and nucleic acids that you and I are made of. And it's very hard to say that viruses are alive, because if this virus was alive, it would be able to replicate on its own. It wouldn't need your cells to do it. But in this case, the virus literally cannot do anything on its own. It needs to basically steal your own cell's machinery and resources in order to make copies of itself. And so in that regard, we have a hard time saying that it's necessarily alive, because if you just had this piece of paper and nothing else, it would not be able to replicate itself, because it's just the piece of paper. You need ribosomes in order to actually make stuff like proteins, and those ribosomes are inside of your cells. You need RNA polymerase to actually code for more RNA, and this thing on its own does not have that RNA polymerase. So basically what this coronavirus needs to do is it goes into your cells, steals the RNA polymerase, steals the ribosomes, steals the nucleic acids to make more RNA, steals a bunch of your amino acids to make its own kind of proteins, steals your own phospholipid bilayer in order to have its own phospholipid bilayer when it goes off to infect another cell. And so that is the story behind what the coronavirus is made of. I hope this video is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you all for watching. Please stay safe and wash your hands, and I'll talk to you next time.